Hello everyone, this is Aaron Fitch from ATF Gaming and welcome back to the ATF NASCAR Weekly Review. Today we had doubleheader at Auto Club, Xfinity, and Cup. Last race of the West Coast Swing, and next week we have Martinsville, which is going to be good. I believe it's just Trucks and Cup. Xfinity has the week off. So our first true short track, I know some people consider Phoenix to be a short track, but our first true short track. Aaron's not good at words. But anyway, let's start with the Xfinity Series. Christopher Bell on pole again. Third pole of the year, I believe it was. Joey Logano, he was the only bushwhacker, I still call it that, besides Austin Dillon. But Dillon, well, he was up front a little bit, but Logano was the only real bushwhacker who was running up front. John Hunter Nemechek, another good qualifying effort in his second Xfinity start. Cole Custer fourth, and Daniel Hemrick fifth. Christopher Bell, Custer, and Hemrick, they've been up front in qualifying all the time this year. So good to see those guys up front. Stage one went mostly uneventful. There was a caution with 4 laps to go for Matt Mills. And that ended the stage. They probably could have gotten it started again if they, called for the red flag, but they did not. And Joey Logano won the stage. Justin Allgaier finished second, Cole Custer third, Elliott Sadler fourth, and Tyler Reddick fifth. Stage two again went mostly uneventful until right at the end. John Hunter Nemechek had an issue, and I believe it was a tire blowing, and he destroyed the back of his car. He was out of the race, and that ended stage two right there. Joey Logano won stage two as well. Tyler Reddick finished second, Christopher Bell third, Elliott Sadler fourth, Justin Allgaier fifth. Then there was a really weird incident. Christopher Bell, with about 52 laps to go, he just spun all by himself. He didn't have any. He just got loose off the corner, I believe it was, and he just spun. It was one of the weirdest things I've seen in a while, but there goes a good effort for him. And then, immediately following that, there was another wreck involving Christopher Bell, this time with Michael Annett. That was about six laps later. Bell kept going up the track, and Annett, it might have been the other way around. Annett was pushing up the track in the tri-oval, and they just made contact. Dylan Lumpton had issues. I don't know if it was an engine or a tire. I don't quite remember. I should take better notes. But he had issues. I believe this is like the third or fourth week in a row that Dylan Lumpton hasn't been able to finish a race. And for a small team like JGL, they need all the race cars they can get, all the engines they can get. So he should really start finishing races. But that caution caused a mixed strategy as far as pit stops. So basically, everybody pitted except for Joey Logano, who was leading. Joey Logano stayed out. Everybody else decided to go on the opposite strategy and come in. But then shortly after that, Logano was obviously a sitting duck. But shortly after that, there was another caution for debris. Logano pits. Everybody who had pitted earlier stays out. So then Logano drops to 16th, but he just flew to the front. Absolutely flew to the front. And he was back in the lead almost within 2 laps from 16th. And that just says, A, how strong his car was, and B, how important fresh tires were. That was about 6 laps advantage on tires, I think it was at the time. Then there was another debris caution with 11 laps to go. It was caused by Austin Cindric, our favorite driver, who doesn't know how to go through a race without causing some sort of issues. He was taped up from damage earlier in the race. I don't know what happened, but then I think they blew another tire, and yeah. So Austin Cindric managing to piss off myself again, and probably a bunch of other people. Everybody came down pit road, but only Ryan Sieg did not take any tires. I think he might have been out of tires. They were everybody else had one set left, and I think Ryan Sieg might have been out of tires. But that's notable as a YouTuber, because Ryan Sieg was sponsored by the YouTuber, I really hope I say this right, N2SC4R. I might have said that wrong, and I apologize if I do. But he's one of the more popular NASCAR YouTubers, and it's really cool to see him. He sponsored it with his company that he runs with his brother, who's also a YouTuber, Lombard Bros Gaming, I believe it was. So that was really cool. They were up front. Obviously, they were sitting duck, and they fell to the back. But it was cool to see that up front. But Joey Logano wins the race. Justin Allgaier gave him a fight, but he needed maybe 5 more laps or so. So Allgaier finished second. Elliott Sadler finishes third. Austin Dillon did come and finish fourth, and Daniel Hemrick fifth. And across the start-finish line, Kaz Gralla, he spun, and that's another car for JGL that is damaged. Growler had been staying mostly clean this season, if I recall, but it's tough for those small teams who want to run well, but they also can't afford to lose cars. So that's sad. And then basically the only other thing I have to talk about is this is now the 4th race in a row for the Xfinity Series that's been won by a bushwhacker. Logano won this week. Keselowski won. I think Blaney won a race, and Kyle Busch won a race. No, Harvick won a race in one of those. But anyway, it's getting really old really fast. I know it's going to be this way early on in the season because of the limits and restrictions on what the Cup Series drivers can and can't do. They can run, 7 races, I believe it is, in the Xfinity, 5 in the trucks. But they can't run any of the Dash for Cash races, and they can't run any of the races in the chase and the race before the chase. So that's why we're seeing a lot of these Cup guys early on in the season, because there's going to be a lot of limits once we hit summer with the Dash for Cash, and then the fall with the chase races. So that's why we're seeing a lot of this early on. It'll die down. It's really frustrating as a fan because we hear all these rule changes, and then there's still these guys who come out and win every week. But it'll get better as the season goes on. So anyway, off to Cup Series now. We're going to talk about the qualifying issues first. There was huge issues with inspection. This is the first 2-mile oval, really aerodynamic track. So teams are pushing the limit, but there were a lot of issues with inspection. And only 24 out of the 37 cars took time in qualifying. So basically, 24 took time, 13 didn't. Those 13 drivers would have started in the back, but they would have started with fresh tires because everybody has to start on the tires that they qualified on. And if you made it to the final round of qualifying, you would have had about 6 laps on your tires. And at a track like Auto Club, Atlanta would be a similar situation, old surface. That's a big difference. We just talked about Joey Logano coming from 16th to 1st with only 6-7 lap fresh tires in the Xfinity race. So a lot of people were upset about that. So NASCAR changed the rules for this weekend only and this race only. That teams who qualified and attempted to qualify could trade in their qualifying tires for a brand new set of tires. So that was the first rule change. And then the following day, so that was on Friday, and then the following day you had Xfinity qualifying. They announced for Xfinity qualifying, if you did not make it through inspection and you were unable to make a qualifying lap, basically you would take the green flag. On the next lap, you would have to come down pit road for a pass-through penalty, which at Auto Club might not put you a lap down, but at other tracks it will most definitely put you a lap down. Like next week at Martinsville, for the Truck Series or the Cup Series even, that could put you 1, maybe 2 laps down. So that's a huge thing. That was only implemented for the Xfinity race this week, but it is widely anticipated by most of the NASCAR community that rule will be implemented for all tracks and all series this week. So That is widely anticipated that that's what's going to happen. But anyway, as a result of qualifying, Martin Truex Jr. qualified in the pole, Kyle Busch second, Kyle Larson third, Eric Jones fourth, and a good qualifying effort for Daytona 500 champion Austin Dillon. So, race was fairly uneventful, if I'm being honest. The big thing happened about halfway through stage one was Kevin Harvick and Kyle Larson. They were fighting for, I think it was third at the time, but they were being super aggressive for 5, 6, 7 laps. And they were side by side. In the post-race interview, Harvick said that he was trying to side draft Larson, but he went a little too far. But Larson, so Harvick basically came down, hit Larson in the side, and then Harvick, I don't know, overcorrected or just made his car super loose, and he hit the wall. Massive damage for Harvick. Larson had a little damage, but it wasn't anything too bad. But Harvick, he came down on Larson. Larson stayed straight, but Harvick came down on him. The guys in the booth at the time were thinking maybe Harvick was a little frustrated with Larson for how aggressive that they've been running for 5, 6 laps in stage one. So some people think Harvick was just going to give Larson a little bump, but gave him a little more than a bump, and Harvick ended up paying the price for it. But Truex wins stage one, Kyle Busch second, Joey Logano third, Brad Keselowski fourth, and Jimmy Johnson fifth. So that's notable. Johnson actually had a decent race. He had been struggling a lot recently. Obviously, it's been well documented. And then he lost his sponsor. Lowe's is not going to be back next year. So it's obviously been a rough start to the season for Johnson, but he got a top 5 in stage one. Stage two, mostly uneventful. Caution with 11 laps to go. Trevor Bayne got in the wall, and Paul Menard also got in the wall in a separate incident, basically at the same time. So that set up about a 7-lap shootout, and Martin Truex Jr. wins that stage as well. Brad Keselowski finishes second, Kyle Busch finishes third, Logano fourth, and Denny Hamlin fifth. Third stage, again, mostly uneventful. David Reagan got into the wall with about 71 laps to go. So caution, everybody came down pit road. I believe this was actually fairly shortly after stage 2 ended, if I'm not mistaken. Everybody came down. William Byron only took 2 tires. Everybody else took 4 tires, so that was a risk for Byron. He ended up falling back, but still a decent finish for him. But the rest of the race was pretty uneventful. On the final green flag pit stop, basically Truex and Kyle Busch have been back and forth throughout this entire race. But Truex has always ended up with the advantage. But on the final pit stop, Kyle Busch called for an adjustment, and the crew member went the wrong way on the wedge. So they ended up loosening the car when they wanted to tighten the car, and that just hurt Kyle Busch so much. So Truex ended up running away with it. Kyle Larson came back from his earlier incident to finish second. Kyle Busch did finish third, Brad Keselowski fourth, and Joey Logano fifth. So that is our basic summary. Again, look forward to doing Truck Series and Cup at Martinsville next week for a short track, so hopefully that'll be good. Also looking to see if NASCAR does implement that new rule as far as getting the pass-through penalty on lap 1 for not attempting qualifying due to inspection issues. That'll be something to watch throughout the week, as well as the usual, see if anybody fails post-race inspection, gets a penalty. So we'll look forward to that this week, and then I'll see you guys here next week where we can talk about hopefully some good action at Martinsville. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. And if you want to see more content from ATF Gaming, be sure to hit that red subscribe button. It really means a lot to me, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.